In the middle of a routine late show taping, Stephen Colbert calmly dropped the hammer on Donald Trump right there on live television. When Trump boasted about his tremendous family, but Colbert just sat there with a quiet, razor-sharp smirk, methodically peeling away the lies. Then Colbert slid the last document across the desk and revealed that Barron's real mother wasn't Melania at all. Her name started with the letter I, and the DNA, the emails, and the sworn statements proved it beyond any doubt, leaving Trump standing there exposed, humiliated, and completely unraveled in front of millions. It was a regular Tuesday night on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The studio audience in New York was settled in, sipping drinks and chatting quietly after a long day. Colbert walked out with that easy grin of his, waving like he was greeting old friends. He kicked things off the way he always did, cracking a couple jokes about the latest headlines and poking fun at politicians in that calm, quick way that made the crowd chuckle right away. "Folks, it's been one of those weeks," he said, leaning on his desk. "But hey, we're here to laugh through it together." The energy felt familiar and comfortable, like slipping into your favorite chair after work. Then everything changed in a split second. The side doors to the stage swung open with a loud click that cut through the laughter. Heads turned. It was President Donald Trump, striding out like he owned the place, that signature confident walk, with his shoulders back and chin up. He gave a quick wave to the audience, flashing a tight smile. Some people clapped out of habit. Others just sat there stunned, whispering to the person next to them. This wasn't on the schedule. No one had announced a guest like this. The usual late-night buzz shifted fast into something heavier, a mix of surprise. Trump didn't head straight for the guest chair. He stopped near the center of the stage, raised one hand like he was at a rally, and spoke in that familiar booming voice. "I'm here tonight to clear up some crazy rumors, folks. A lot of fake news out there. Very unfair to me and my family." His tone tried to sound casual, but there was a slight edge to it, like the words were a bit forced. The audience went quiet fast. Colbert stayed behind his desk, watching the whole thing with sharp eyes. He didn't jump up or look shocked. Instead, he gave a small nod, keeping his face relaxed while his mind clearly raced ahead. From that first moment, you could tell he was already adjusting, ready to steer whatever this unexpected storm was bringing. Trump kept going, trying to grab the spotlight like he always did. He launched into a couple quick boasts about his wins in the last election, how the economy was stronger than ever under him, and how nobody worked harder for the American people. "Tremendous results, believe me," he said, gesturing with his hands for emphasis. The words hung in the air, the kind of lines that usually fired up a crowd at his events. A few people in the audience shifted in their seats, some nodding, others just staring wide-eyed. The studio felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker with tension. No one was laughing now. This wasn't the light banter they came for. Colbert let the moment stretch just a beat longer than normal. He didn't interrupt right away. Instead, he sat back slightly, eyes locked on Trump, saying nothing. That short silence did more than any question could have. It made Trump's boasts echo a little awkwardly, like they were filling space instead of landing. The president paused, glancing over at the host, waiting for a reaction. Colbert finally leaned forward a touch, his voice steady and everyday, like he was just chatting with a neighbor. "Mr. President, welcome to the show. We weren't expecting you tonight, but since you're here to set the record straight..." He left the rest unsaid, letting the words trail off. Then Colbert looked straight at the president and asked the question in a steady, everyday voice that cut right through the tension. "Mr. President, what's your real relationship with Ivanka like?" The words landed hard. A few people in the audience gasped softly. Trump's easy smile froze for half a second. He shifted in the guest chair, then let out a short, forced chuckle that didn't sound amused at all. Well, Stephen, Ivanka and I have a tremendous relationship. Really fantastic. She's smart. She's capable. She's done incredible work. People are saying all sorts of crazy things out there, fake news, very unfair to my family. He tried to pivot fast, launching into stories about big business deals he'd closed and how his administration had delivered results like nobody else. We built the strongest economy in history, folks. Tremendous family, tremendous loyalty. Nobody works harder than us. His hands moved in those familiar chopping gestures, but the energy felt a little off, like he was talking around the question instead of answering it. Colbert didn't nod or smile along. He stayed quiet for a moment, then pressed just a little. I hear you, Mr. President, but there have been some old rumors floating around for years. Things people whispered about even before you were in office, about how close you two really were. He didn't spell out the rumors. He didn't have to. Just mentioning them was enough. Trump's shoulders tightened visibly. He crossed one leg over the other, then uncrossed it quickly, his foot tapping once against the floor. The confident grin stayed on his face, but it looked tighter now, almost pasted on. Those are disgusting lies, he said, his voice rising a notch. Totally made up by the media to hurt me. I love my daughter like any father would. Very normal, very beautiful relationship. People are jealous, that's all. The audience was completely still. You could hear the faint hum of the studio lights. Colbert kept his tone even, almost conversational, but he wasn't backing off. He leaned forward slightly and said, I'm just trying to understand, because the way some people talk about it, it sounds complicated. Trump laughed again, louder this time, but the laugh cracked at the edges. His face was starting to flush. He shifted in his seat once more, adjusting his suit jacket like it suddenly felt too tight. For the first time since he walked in, the big, booming confidence looked shaky. He tried to steer the conversation back to politics, mentioning crowd sizes and poll numbers, but the words came out faster, almost rushed. Colbert let the silence stretch. He didn't jump in to fill the gap. He just sat there, watching Trump with that steady, unblinking look. 5 seconds passed, then 10. The quiet felt heavy, like the whole room was holding its breath. Trump's laugh faded. His fingers drummed once on the arm of the chair. He opened his mouth, closed it, then forced another chuckle that sounded thinner than the last one. Stephen, you're being ridiculous, he finally said, but his voice had a slight waver in it now. A tiny shake that the microphones picked up clearly. This is what the fake news does. They make up stories. My family is strong. We stick together. Colbert let the heavy silence hang for one more beat, then shifted gears so fast it caught everyone off guard. He looked straight at Trump, his voice still calm and even, like he was talking about the weather. Let's talk about Barron. I've been looking into some things myself. The name dropped like a rock into still water. Trump's face went tight. His eyes narrowed and the confident smile from a minute ago completely vanished. The studio audience froze. You could almost hear the collective inhale as people realized this was heading somewhere much darker than anyone expected. Colbert reached under his desk without rushing and pulled out a plain brown envelope. He held it up just enough for the cameras to catch it. Barron did a DNA test, he said plainly, and the results are right here. Trump's whole body stiffened, his jaw clenched hard. That's a lie, he shot back immediately, his voice loud and sharp. Complete nonsense. Fake news, Stephen. You're spreading lies about a child? How low can you go? He leaned forward in his chair, pointing a finger toward Colbert, his face turning red. The anger came fast and hot, like he was trying to shut the whole thing down before it could breathe. Colbert didn't flinch. He opened the envelope slowly and pulled out a single sheet of paper. With a small gesture, he signaled the control room. A moment later, a clean summary of the DNA report appeared on the big screen behind them. No full name was shown, just the key scientific lines in clear black text. Colbert kept his tone straightforward, almost like he was reading from a textbook. The test shows a 99.9% probability of a close maternal relationship that doesn't match the publicly stated records. The markers point to someone outside the official story. Simple science, Mr. President. Hard to argue with the numbers. The audience murmured. A few people whispered to each other, eyes wide. The words sounded cold and clinical, which made them hit even harder. Trump stared at the screen for a second, then whipped his head back toward Colbert. His hand shot out, finger pointed directly at the host. "This is fake news propaganda," he barked, his voice rising with real heat. "You're attacking my family with doctored documents. This is disgusting. Totally made up by people who hate me. I won't sit here and let you smear a young boy on live television." His voice cracked with fury. He jabbed the finger again, leaning so far forward the chair creaked. For the first time that night, it felt like a real head-to-head fight. Trump was on the attack, trying to bulldoze the conversation with volume and outrage. But Colbert stayed completely still behind the desk. His shoulders relaxed, his hands folded loosely in front of him. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't match the anger. Instead, he spoke in that same steady, almost quiet tone. "I'm not attacking anyone, Mr. President. I'm just showing what the test says. The science is there on the screen for everyone to see." That calm control was what made the moment so intense. Trump was pointing, shouting, face flushed. Colbert sat there like he had all the time in the world, completely unfazed. The contrast was brutal. The president looked like he was losing his grip, while the host looked like he was running the room without even trying. The audience could feel it. Every eye bounced between the two men, the tension thick enough to taste. Trump kept going, his voice getting louder. "This is a witch hunt. You and the fake media are desperate. Barron is my son with Melania. End of story. Anyone who says different is a liar." He slammed his hand on the arm of the chair for emphasis, breathing hard. Colbert simply nodded once, slowly. "Then maybe you can explain why the DNA doesn't line up," he said, still calm, still in charge. Colbert held the brown envelope in both hands for a long second, making sure every camera caught the moment. He didn't rush. He didn't smile. He just looked straight at Trump and spoke in that same calm, steady voice that had been throwing the president off all night. "This report confirms Barron's real mother, and her name starts with the letter I." The words hit the studio like a slap. The audience went completely silent for half a beat, then a wave of shocked whispers broke out. Trump's face drained of color. His usual red flush disappeared, leaving him pale and tight-jawed. For the first time since he walked onto the stage, he looked genuinely stunned. He shot up out of his chair so fast, it scraped loudly against the floor. "This is nonsense," he shouted, his voice booming through the studio. "Absolute propaganda. You're making this up on live television to destroy me. How dare you?" Trump stood there pointing at Colbert, chest heaving, eyes wide with fury. The confident swagger he came in with was gone. Now he looked raw, exposed, and pissed off. Some people in the audience gasped. Others leaned so far forward they nearly fell out of their seats. The energy in the room had flipped from tense to explosive in one sentence. Colbert didn't raise his voice or argue back. He simply glanced down at the paper in his hands and read the next line, cool and clear, like he was reading the weather report. The mitochondrial DNA markers show a direct maternal match with a probability exceeding 99.8%. The sample profile is inconsistent with the publicly documented maternal line. Trump's eyes bulged, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Stop it!" he yelled, his voice cracking with real panic now. "You're lying! That's not real! This is a setup, a total hoax!" He took a half step toward the desk, then stopped, breathing hard. The calm, clinical words from Colbert were hitting harder than any shout could. Every extra detail made Trump look more rattled, more desperate. Colbert kept his tone even. He didn't gloat. He didn't attack. He just kept reading the facts, letting them do the work. Trump's face twisted with a mix of anger and fear. Sweat was starting to show on his forehead under the bright studio lights. He looked like a man who suddenly realized the floor was disappearing beneath him. "You will regret this," Trump snarled, jabbing his finger hard toward Colbert. "You're finished, Stephen. Done. I'll make sure of it." His voice shook with rage. Then, in a wild move, he pulled his phone out of his jacket pocket right there on live TV. "I'm calling her right now. Right now. You'll hear it from her own mouth. This ends tonight." He started tapping the screen, muttering under his breath as he tried to dial. The audience was stunned silent, watching the President of the United States trying to make a personal call on national television to prove his point. Colbert finally moved. He leaned forward just enough and spoke sharply, but still controlled. "Mr. President, we're not turning this show into a personal phone call. Put the phone away." His voice carried real authority, cutting through Trump's frenzy like a knife. When Trump ignored him and kept tapping, Colbert raised his hand toward the control booth. The studio speakers clicked once, and the audio feed from Trump's phone was instantly muted. The president's voice kept moving, but no sound came out. Trump looked up, furious and disoriented. "What the hell are you doing? Turn that back on!" He waved the phone wildly. "You can't censor me! This is America!" Colbert stared him down, calm as ever. "This is my show, Mr. President, and we're not letting this turn into chaos. The facts are on the table. The letter I is on the table. If you want to respond, respond to that." The two men locked eyes across the desk. Trump was standing, red-faced again, phone still in his hand, breathing like he'd just run a mile. Colbert sat perfectly still, completely in control. Colbert waited until Trump lowered his phone, the tension still crackling in the air. Then he reached under the desk again, calm as ever, and pulled out a small tablet. "Since we're talking facts tonight, Mr. President, here's something else you might want to explain." He nodded toward the control room. The big screen behind them lit up with a short video clip. It was grainy but clear enough, an old leaked recording of Trump on a phone call, his voice unmistakable. Next to it, a scanned email appeared, the text highlighted in bold. The sender's name started with I, and the message read, "We need to be more careful. No one can know about us or the boy. Handle it quietly, like we planned." The audience sucked in a collective breath. Trump's eyes locked on the screen, and his face twisted with pure rage. The color that had drained earlier came rushing back, turning his neck and cheeks deep red. "You son of a bitch!" Trump exploded, jabbing his finger straight at Colbert. "This is illegal. You stole private emails. You're a liar, a fraud, and a disgusting human being. How dare you drag my family through the mud with this garbage? You're going to prison for this, Stephen. I'll make sure every agency comes after you." His voice was raw, spitting every word like venom. He stepped closer to the desk, pointing so hard his hand shook. "You think you're smart? You're nothing but a failing late-night hack who hates winners. This is all fake, all of it. You're attacking a child to get ratings, you pathetic loser." Colbert didn't stand up. He didn't even raise his voice. He sat perfectly still, letting Trump's tirade wash over him while the cameras caught every furious gesture. The contrast was brutal. One man completely losing it, the other ice cold and in total command. When Trump finally paused to catch his breath, Colbert spoke quietly, but firmly. "Mr. President, before you keep going, there's one more voice I think the audience should hear." He tapped the tablet again. A pre-recorded video appeared on screen. A middle-aged man in a suit, looking straight into the camera with a serious expression. The caption read, "Sworn affidavit, former senior aide, 2024. Colbert read the key lines slowly and clearly. I personally witnessed multiple meetings where the president instructed staff to suppress any information linking him to the woman known as I, and to maintain the public narrative about Barron's mother at all costs. He stated, and I quote, "If this gets out, it destroys everything. Pay whatever it takes to keep it buried." The words hung heavy in the studio. Trump froze for a split second, then erupted even harder. "That man is a traitor, a disgruntled employee who was fired. He's lying through his teeth because I wouldn't keep him on the payroll." His voice rose to a near shout. "This is a coordinated witch hunt. You and your liberal friends are trying to destroy me with fake videos and paid liars." Colbert stayed seated, hands folded on the desk, eyes locked on Trump. The audience was dead silent now, barely breathing, every person leaning forward like they were watching a car wreck in slow motion. "Mr. President," Colbert said evenly, his voice cutting through the noise without effort, "if the aide is lying, why does the email match the timeline he just described? And why did you try to call that same woman live on this show 2 minutes ago?" Trump slammed his hand on the desk, leaning in so close his face filled half the camera frame. "Because you're twisting everything. You're a disgrace to journalism, a total failure. I built this country, and you sit here trying to tear it down with cheap tricks." Colbert didn't blink. He fired back with another precise question, his tone still calm and measured. "Then explain the email, sir. Explain why you told your staff to bury the story. If it's all fake, why are you screaming instead of laughing it off?" Trump's face contorted with fury. He was almost yelling now, veins standing out on his neck. "I don't have to explain anything to you. You're nobody. This is all bullshit." Every denial came louder and faster, but each one sounded weaker against Colbert's steady, surgical questions. The host kept peeling away the bluster, one calm sentence at a time, exposing the cracks. Trump was pacing now, gesturing wildly, completely out of control. Colbert remained rooted in his chair, unshaken, dismantling every angry outburst with simple, direct follow-ups. Colbert let Trump's shouting echo for a moment, then reached for one last item under his desk. He pulled out a single printed sheet and held it up briefly before signaling the control room. The big screen switched to a clear, time-stamped text message exchange. "Look at the date and time, Mr. President," Colbert said, his voice still calm and steady. "This message was sent from your private number at 2:17 a.m. on March 12th last year. It reads, 'Keep the boy's story straight. If anyone asks about I, deny everything. We bury this or it buries us.' Signed with your usual shorthand." The timestamp and the exact wording appeared in large, unmistakable text across the screen. No blur, no doubt. The audience let out a low, stunned murmur. This wasn't vague science or old rumors anymore. It was Trump's own words, dated and undeniable. Trump stared at the screen, his mouth slightly open. For 2 full seconds, he said nothing. Then the dam broke completely. "You bastard," he roared, his voice cracking with pure fury. He shoved the guest chair backward so hard it toppled over with a loud crash that echoed through the studio. "This is all fake! Fabricated! You're a lying piece of shit trying to destroy the presidency!" He was standing now, face purple with rage, fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. "I built this country. I made America great again, and you sit here with your cheap props and stolen messages. You're done, Colbert, finished. I'll sue you, your network, everyone. You'll never work again." Trump stormed toward the edge of the stage, still shouting, spit flying, as he waved his arms wildly. "This is a coup, a witch hunt on live TV. I'm not taking this anymore." Without another glance at Colbert or the audience, he barreled through the side doors. The heavy doors slammed shut behind him with a bang that rattled the set. His angry voice could still be heard, fading down the hallway as security scrambled to keep up. The studio fell into a stunned silence. No one moved. The only sound was the faint hum of the lights and the rapid breathing of people trying to process what they had just witnessed. Colbert sat back slowly in his chair, exhaling once. He looked straight into the main camera, his expression calm but with a hint of dry satisfaction. Well, that just happened. He paused for half a second, then added in a quieter, sharper tone, "Tonight, we saw what happens when the facts get too close. The White House is going to have a lot of explaining to do in the coming days. Stay tuned." The audience finally reacted, a mix of nervous laughter, scattered applause, and shocked whispers spreading through the seats. Colbert didn't smile or play it up. He simply looked directly into the lens, his eyes steady and serious. "America, you just saw it all unfold. What comes next? That's the real question." He held the gaze for a long beat, letting the weight of the night sink in. The cameras stayed on his face as the studio lights began to dim slightly, and the familiar late-show music started to fade in. But the energy in the room didn't settle. It hung there, thick and unresolved, like the story was far from over. Colbert gave one final small nod to the camera before the screen cut to black. The breaking point had come, and the thunder was only just beginning.